Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first day of Winter Anime 2020. The first video in a new decade. Well, actually it's not the first video. There was technically one last autumn video that came out. So that was technically the first video of a new decade, but it doesn't matter. This is the first video of the winter anime season, as you could tell by the lovely B-roll being shown. But I assume you guys want to get to the questions, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the questions that you guys sent me. You did send me a lot, so unfortunately I won't be able to get to all of them, but hopefully I will get to as many as I possibly can. The first question is Todoroki or Bakugo? And listen, I'm not all-day anime. I am not Briggs. I actually like Todoroki quite a bit. I also love Bakugo though, and I think the difference between the two is that Todoroki has slightly more layers than Bakugo does, and that's not to say that Bakugo is necessarily like a bad character, because he's not as deep as Todoroki is. But Todoroki, while he's much like an ogre, he has layers. Bakugo is more, Bakugo wears his heart on his sleeve in a lot of ways, so I feel like Bakugo is a little bit of an easier character to get the deeper meaning behind what he does, whereas Todoroki, there's a little bit more you have to analyze when you're looking at the different decisions he makes, the different reactions he has to things. Bakugo is just, what you see is what you get with Bakugo, but what you see is my explodey boy, and I quite like Bakugo. I think I would rather hang out with Todoroki. Like, I can see me and Todoroki like going out for lunch or something. But Bakugo, I feel, is more fun to see on screen, just given the nature of his character. So in this particular case, I'm gonna go with Bakugo, but you can basically make a case either way. Who's the closest anime equivalent to the one and only Eric Matthews? Bonus for an anime plays with squirrels, good luck. It's sad to me to think that there might be people out there who don't know who Eric Matthews / Plays with Squirrels is. They are a character from Boy Meets World, one of the best shows of all time. Fight me, it's true. You know it's true. But an anime equivalent to Eric Matthews, that's tough. Nagisa from Free definitely has the same type of personality as Eric, this sort of like immature, but honest and slightly goofy, but still mostly just like genuinely warm and pleasant and fun to be around. That sort of personality. A little immature, like I said, but when they need to get serious, they can be serious. And so there's definitely that sort of Eric Matthews vibe in Nagisa. But would Nagisa be Plays with Squirrels though? Like, would he become a sage monk-like individual by the end of Free? I don't think so. Who would be? I guess Plays with Squirrels would be Master Roshi from Dragon Ball. I feel like that's kind of a stretch, but yeah, that's a good question. I need more time on this one. This would be a good video in and of itself. Like, what is the anime equivalent of each Boy Meets World character? That'd be really fun to do, actually. If you could live in any Shonen Jump universe, what would it be? Easy answer, I would love to live in the world of Naruto. I feel like Naruto aesthetically is so cool. Like the world, especially Konoha in particular. I would want to specifically live in Konoha. The village of the Hidden Leaf is, or the village hidden in the leaves, whatever you want to say. It's just this really dope aesthetic of this like old school, traditional Japanese town, while at the same time having the modern conveniences of stuff like TVs and vending machines, stuff like that. There's tech in there, but it's mostly like the fact that it's surrounded by forest. It just feels like a blend of modern stuff with traditional stuff in such a way that I just love it. I think it's interesting in so many different ways. I would rather live in the Naruto era Konoha than the Boruto era Konoha. Like the Boruto era is almost too modern, kind of takes away from some of that traditional stuff, but it also that's how Konoha would eventually evolve, I think. So I'm not faulting Boruto, it's just I'd rather live in that Naruto era for sure. The other Shonen Jump universes are just either bland or just scary to live in. Like sure, I could say something like Dragon Ball, right? Like to have like Capsule Corp technology would be cool, but it'd also probably be really expensive, and you'd have to worry about the planet getting blown up every other day. And I could say Bleach, but it's just our world with big scary ghosts that can kill you. I don't know, like Dr. Stone would be kind of neat, but then you'd have to live without a lot of other like conveniences of modern technology until Senku gets you to that point. I don't know. I feel like Naruto is just the easy answer for me personally. Favorite anime OST? I gotta say Rhythm of Port Town, the soundtrack to the first season of Free. Tetsuya Kato is probably one of my favorite composers in general right now. I just love the man's work. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And I feel like he's probably one of the most underappreciated composers. He's not like the absolute best or anything, but I do feel like his work is so moving and emotional when it needs to be, and he's so underutilized and so underappreciated. I just love the man to death. Other great soundtracks would be Eurocamp. I think the soundtrack to Eurocamp is easily one of my favorite parts about Eurocamp, a show that I already love to pieces, and I actually listened to the Eurocamp soundtrack more than Rhythm of Port Town. Rhythm of Port Town is perfect for like summery music, but Eurocamp is perfect like all year round, and that may actually be my favorite soundtrack. But I have to give it to Rhythm of Port Town just because nostalgia ultimately wins out a little bit there, and it's I don't know, it's tough. It's between Eurocamp and Free's soundtrack, and I feel like most of the answers to these questions are going to be Free related, so I apologize. I only answer Free. What's your plan with the channel going into the future since you've been growing quite a lot recently? And what are your thoughts on the recent growth of the channel since both Beastars and Bookworm ended, which pulled in massive views for the channel? And in general, how's your day, JoJo? My day is lovely. Thank you very much for asking. My plans for the channel going future is just to stay the course. We're just gonna keep covering anime, talking about seasonal anime as they come out. My love for anime, I find, it funny enough, just keeps growing. The fact that there was like a week where there was no anime, I thought I would be looking forward to it, like looking forward to just having some time to not work on videos, to just relax. But honestly, it just made me anxious. And I was really bored. Like, I just wanted more anime. I just wanted more and more and more. I do think that maybe the anime industry needs to cool it on the number of shows that come out per season, but I gotta tell you, like, for as long as I will continue to exist on this planet, I will likely be making seasonal anime content. As for how I feel about the growth of the channel, it's been surreal. We hit 10K by the end of the year, and I think we had started with like 2,000 in April or something like that. Like, it really felt fast, and it was when I started to take the channel more seriously. Before it was just a hobby, and it was just something I would do like if I had time, but then I had this awful shift at my retail store, and it just made me go like, you know what makes me actually happy? And it's this. So maybe I should try pursuing this, and it's actually started to work out. I do feel like in the future, maybe the channel could be self-sustaining. We'll have to see, and I hope that day comes sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's my goal, is I would love to make this my job and talk about seasonal anime with all of you more often, and talk about like other stuff too, maybe down the line. I really want to get into Twitch as well, just kind of streaming. I really want to stream like Animal Crossing when it comes out, because that's one of my favorite series of all time. And yeah, both Beastars and Bookworm pulled in insane views. I was always really humbled when I put out a Beastars video or a Bookworm video, and seeing people react to it and seeing the comments and the support was insane. I certainly hope that some other shows this season manage to pull in that same support. I can see Haikyuu doing that. I don't know, maybe Somali in the Forest Spirit. I'm looking forward to see which show is this season's big support, like which show gets the most support on the channel this season. I'm very curious to see. The next question asks your favorite OTP of all time, and if I'm totally honest, that's a little hard to answer, because that would take some time. I would need to sit down and spend several days poring over a list of ships to decide which of the ships is truly the OTP. Which of the OTPs stands above the rest as the very epitome of one true pairing. That'd be very difficult, but since I've been answering with nothing but Free lately for most of these questions, I'm gonna go ahead and default to one of my Free ships, and that is my OTP in Free, Rinharu. Rinharu is an example of a ship that I love, because they're two characters who genuinely just improve each other while still being independent characters in and of themselves. Like, they're not characters that need each other to be characters. They're characters on their own, but together just come together to make this really great ship. I think Haru and Rin know each other deeply. They care about each other. They're fun together, but they still butt heads for that angst level, which is great. I think that they improve each other to be better people as well as better swimmers, and I just think that they're relationship is a big part of the show and will forever remain a huge part of Free, especially for me. So I just feel like Rin and Haru, they make each other better, they improve each other, and I don't know, I just really like them. There's other ships that the two are in, like obviously there's Makuharu, there's So Rin. I don't really like those ships as much. I feel like they, in some cases, actually deter from the other characters. To me, Rinharu is just life. Always gonna be life. That's just how it is. Moving on, as someone who likes watching you commenting and thinking on anime you watch, do you plan to watch or comment on the A3 series? It's one of my favorite games with a decent story, and if done right, could be pretty touching. I hope I get an answer in the video. Well, Kiwi, you have gotten your answer. And that answer is absolutely. I'm very, very curious about A3. It wasn't initially on my radar. Like friends on AniTube had pointed it out in their own videos, and so I was curious enough to check it out because, again, like I said earlier in the video, I was a theater kid growing up. So the idea of a group of characters who come together to try to support a failing theater has me very interested. It kind of gives me flashbacks to Holly Stage 449 from the previous decade, but Holly Stage 449 suffered from some pretty poor animation and a sort of muddled story, so I feel like A3 could be the better version of that show that I've been looking for. And also, let's just be real, your boy's a Fidanchi, and there is some Fujo bait to the show, so of course I was going to be interested in covering it. I'm sure most of you guys were interested in watching it as well, so I feel like since we're all going to probably be watching it anyway, may as well talk about it here on the channel. Ooh, this is a good one. Best anime of the last decade, and the best anime of the last decade was Free Dive to the Future, as far as I'm concerned, and that's the only person I can speak for because that's the only person whose opinion I truly know, and that is my own. If you're asking me, Dive to the Future was the culmination of everything that KyoAni had been doing with Free up until that point. It has an amazing cast of characters who you either love, or love to hate. Looking at you, Hiyori. It had movie-level animation as like in pretty much every single episode. The soundtrack's beautiful, the story is on this grand stage. It truly feels like everything in the past was just a prologue leading to Dive to the Future. It feels like the gang is standing on a global stage now. We haven't even gotten to stuff like the Olympics yet, but it's likely heading that way, that the gang are going to become professional athletes, like in terms of swimming and like relays and stuff like that. Seeing the growth of those characters to that level has been nothing short of fascinating. Dive to the Future was just fantastic. It was one of those shows where I was completely engaged and enthralled episode by episode by episode. I loved it to pieces, but if I had to take a step back and look at what I assume the community could deem as anime of the decade, I would say Steins Gate. It's one of my favorite anime of all time. I think it's easily one of the anime of the decade, as well as one of the best science fiction stories of the past decade. I think its time travel it feels dumbed down for the audience and doesn't hold anybody's hand, while it still makes sense, even though it's very complicated. It too has a great cast and a crazy story, and yeah, I could see Steins Gate being a lot of people's best anime of the last decade, and it's one of my favorite anime of the last decade as well, easily top 3. But yeah, I would say Dive to the Future is my personal best anime of the last decade. What is one non-anime show you really want to start watching, but you can't find the time to do so? Vikings. I have always wanted to get into Vikings. I believe the show is either ending or is already over, I'm not too sure, but Vikings is a show that was always something that interested me, but I was always so kind of preoccupied with Game of Thrones, and look how that ended. But Vikings was a show that, yeah, I always wanted to see, but for whatever reason I never got around to, especially after hearing that Edge from WWE is a character in the show, like Edge plays one of the characters on Vikings. That had me super curious, because I love Edge. Like, Edge is probably my favorite wrestler of all time, so the fact that he's in Vikings has me very curious as well. I should eventually get around to it. I don't know when, because finding free time is very difficult for me, but yeah, if I ever find the free time, it's still on the top of my to-watch live action shows. The next question is favorite Bones show. That's tough. Bones single-handedly is responsible for so many of my favorite anime of all time. So picking any one of them is difficult. There's so many options. Their library is insanely vast. But I really don't feel like you can beat Mob. I think Mob is Bones at their best. It's One at his best. I think Mob is this super genuine story that isn't afraid to tell things like it is, and it has some of the most insane, crazy action of any Bones show. It has some of the best fights in Bones' long history. I think Mob as a character is so endearing. Like, you really just want to root for him. Reagan is one of the best characters in Shonen today. Like, I love Mob so much. Mob Psycho 100 is far and away one of the best Bones show, if not my personal favorite series from Bones. And that's saying something, because your boy loves Studio Bones. Which anime world/situation would you most hate to be in? I would hate to be a member of the Band of the Hawk. Yeah, even if I survive the many battles that the Hawk go through, I know how that story ends, and let's be real, your boy is much more of a thinker than a fighter. I would not survive the eclipse. That ain't happening. Yeah, I would most hate to be a member of the Hawk. I love watching. I would love to stand by as like a ghostly figure who cannot be attacked or harmed. Then I would hang out with the Band of the Hawk, but yeah, nah, that would be some scary shit. The next question here is, I have two, if you don't mind. Okay, so the next two questions here is, a show that you like but nobody talks about, a la an obscure gem that you would like to share, or anime phrases that you're already sick of hearing of a lot. Well, as for a show that I like that nobody seems to talk about, it was Aka. For a long time, I was so upset that nobody liked Aka as much as I seemed to love Aka. Aka is easily like top 5, top 3 maybe shows of the last decade. I loved Aka to pieces. It's one of the most visually stunning anime I had seen in a long time. The color palette is fantastic. The movement is great. The characters are fun. It's this laid back sort of like jazzy, like noir-ish story. It had like these vibrant, insanely beautiful background art, like all this insanely beautiful background art, these crazy cool vistas, like the landmass of Aka is Aka is just so good. However, with the announcement of Aka 13 Regards, the OVA that's coming out soon, a lot of people suddenly were talking about Aka again, and I was so happy, because like I love that show. So the fact that people were also excited, it just put a huge smile on my face. I love Aka. I really hope Regards maybe leads to a second season. From what I gather, the anime had reached the end of the manga, but hopefully the mangaka comes on, maybe helps out with a second season, or maybe even just an OVA every like year or two. I would love to just check in with those characters, check in with that world every so often, because I really, really love Aka 13, and the characters in the world are super fascinating. I feel like you could easily do another story, and it would be just as, even if it was just Jean and Nino just talking at a cafe, I would watch a full hour of that. No joke. As for a phrase I'm already sick of hearing of, I suppose it would maybe be the phrase budget to describe crazy cool animation, but I'm not necessarily sick of hearing it. I just think it's something that you normally would say if you're new to the medium, since it's more of like a meme to say like, look at the budget, right? Like we all joke like, unlimited budget works when we're talking about a studio like Ufotable. So I think it's more of a meme. I'm not necessarily sick of hearing it about it, and it's certainly like there's truth to it, right? You need a big budget if you're working on an anime to get the top tier animators to come on board and help you with your show. But I think saying budget genuinely and like actually meaning it when talking about good animation is almost insulting to the effort that these animators put into it. It sort of dismisses it as like, well, if you give them money, they'll do whatever you want. And it sort of makes it seem like they don't always put 110 into it unless the money's there. And I just personally feel like it's a bit insulting, but I also recognize that it's also a meme. And so it is kind of funny. I make the budget references here and there too. I'm not necessarily sick of hearing it about it, but when it's used genuinely, it just comes across as a little disrespectful to me. The next question is, when will you watch We Love Rice Season 2? Caster, don't you think that I have suffered enough? I saw the first season, okay? I was there, all right? I saw We Love Rice with my own eyes. I've seen enough.
I did my waiting. 12
episodes
of it! In Azkaban!
Sorry. I don't plan on it. I don't plan to go back. And the final question of the video is favorite musical. This will seem like an insult if you're a musical fan, but I'm sorry. I just have to say my favorite musical is still Rent. And I know to a lot of musical fans that's gonna be like, Rent? Because Rent has not aged well, and it's kind of a hot mess of a musical, but Rent is the musical that got me into musicals in the first place, so I'll always have sort of a soft spot for it. There's musicals that I think are 10 billion% better than Rent, like stuff like Wicked. Phantom's also a mess, but it's more of a memorable mess in fairness. But even stuff like Avenue Q or Book of Mormon, stuff like that are arguably better. But Rent is, or even like Les Mis is obviously like top cream of the crop musical. But Sweeney Todd is another one that I love to pieces. Once I got into my last 2 years of high school and I decided to just be me, I ended up getting really into musicals and I had a blast with it. And Rent was the musical that really turned me around on musicals and got me really interested. And I always get excited when I hear that the local theater's like putting on a performance of Rent. I get excited. I'll go for sure. And I would really love to play Mark in a performance of Rent, because I feel like me and Mark are very similar people, and I've always liked Mark. He's my favorite character in the show. And I would love to be Mark, but the amount of free time you would need to put in to putting on a show like Rent is a lot, and I sadly don't have the free time to go to the local theater and volunteer and try to an audition to play Mark. It's just not gonna happen. You're also banking on them eventually doing Rent again, because everybody's done Rent like 1,000 times. And yeah, it's corny, yes, it's dated, and it's a bit of a hot mess, but I still just love this broken ass musical. I still love it. That said, Sweeney Todd and Wicked are still better. That's just a fact. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the questions that I have time for today. I don't know when the next Q&A video will be, or when the next like ships and waifus and husbandos type videos will be, since going forward into the winter season, I'm kind of booked up. I basically have 2 videos per day to do. For the first little bit, it'll be 1 video a day, but going into the season proper, we'll basically be doing 2 videos a day again. So I don't know when I'll have the time. YouTube doesn't really like people uploading more than 2 videos, so maybe here and there I'll drop some Q&As, or rate your waifus, or rate your husbandos, or rate your ships, or something like that. I do have plans for rating your ships in particular, some collaborations, but yeah, I'm not sure when the next one of these types of videos will be. It'll mostly be seasonal episodic reviews going forward, but yeah, I hope you guys are excited for winter 2020. I am so freaking excited. I cannot wait to get back into the swing of things, and I'm really excited to see what shows take off and what shows you guys are excited to talk about. I don't know, it's just gonna be an interesting season, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'm gonna go get hype for winter 2020. And that's gonna do it for today's video, everybody, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and before we go, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks over on Patreon, especially those in the Earl Grey tier: Andrew W., Calvin A., Crowbar of Irony, Daniel G., Digger the Fox, Dominic G., Ionos, Urza, Ginkutaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Marshall B., Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Stephen G., Sakochi, Tristan G., and Verdon. A huge thank you to all of you in the T Squadron for your continued support, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord for as little as $1 a month. And with that said, we're gonna wrap up today's video, everybody, so thank you all once again for watching, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.